Hey everybody, the Chiro Guys here. Today we're going to talk about muscle knots. What is a muscle knot?
What is a muscle knot?
What is a muscle knot?
It involves a muscle. What's a muscle?
Yes, it does. It's a bunch of strings lined together. So it's a big batch of rope that you'd put together like this. And then what happens with a muscle knot is parts of those little ropes get tied up.
So when the muscle's unhappy, it can develop little knots in there.
It does.
Yeah. All right. So what could actually make a muscle unhappy then?
Well, that's the interesting part, is because you have three things that we think. There is three. We call them thoughts, toxins, traumas. So a lot of times you can have a traumatic event like...
Well, traumatic event obviously can be a fall off a horse, fall off a bike, car accident. Those are traumatic events. Yeah. But what we don't think of is repetitive stress of work. We have a lot of factory folks that we serve, and those factory folks are pulling the same lever all day long for 40 years. We have a lot of folks that have desk jobs that are stuck like this for 40 years. Yep. Those repetitive stress can be traumas.
Absolutely. So a couple other ones that we don't think of are, one is called a toxic environment or chemical stress. Yeah. So what would that entail? That would entail a lot of different things.
A lot of different things. We have people getting water testing around here like crazy because of junk in there. So there's junk in the water.
Exactly.
We're putting junk food into our body, which puts junk back out as well too.
Right.
If we're dehydrated, if we're not drinking enough water, that's also going to be something as well. So that would be considered all toxic things.
Right. One of my favorite recommendations at this time is, if you have a bunch of these muscle knots that we'll be talking about, stay away from sugars and pop. It's a huge deal. So we won't go into that on this one, but that is one of those things. Sugar, processed sugar.
That's your bonus tip for the day.
Yeah, bonus tip.
So what about the thoughts?
Oh, yes. And one of the bigger ones of all of them is the stress of our world. So right now, they say, I think people get something put in their face every 7 seconds in just information. That
we're
just
part of the problem right now, by the way.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so
because of YouTube. No, I'm just kidding. It's but you have this information overload. You have stress. You have people working 12-hour days, 50, 60 hours a week. Those stresses lead to unhealthy patterns of life. And
unhealthy patterns of life is a great way to describe it. I describe it to people all the time and say, hey, thankfully every single day we're not hit by a bus. We're not getting that trauma. But every single day there's some sort of emotional trauma. And that doesn't mean we're all crying at night. It just means that there's emotional stresses. Yep. Someone at work, someone in the family just isn't meeting the expectation you got. You get stressed.
Right.
And when you get stressed, the natural thing is we all go like this.
Exactly.
Right there. Look at the muscles. Look at the tension. Well, if I have those, what do I do with those things?
Yeah, so that's the next part, is what do we do about these knots that are in there? So there's a few things. The first thing is find them, right? So we got to figure out how to find these muscle knots. So simple way is to find the muscle that's closest to you that you can grab, and then start poking around. What are they looking for?
They're looking for a tender spot.
Yeah.
It's not all about pain, but it is all about pain. So, because it's not supposed to be tender in one spot of the muscle and not the other spot. So you start reaching around, you go, ooh, that's a tender one. Guess what you just found? A muscle knot.
There it is.
A trigger point.
So it's not the whole muscle, it's just that little location. And so once you locate it, that's when the work begins a little bit. And so that's what we're going to talk about in this next one. So as you go, it doesn't have to hurt with what we're talking about. And so when we're...
but can it be tender?
It can be tender. So
that's okay.
Yes. Yeah. So when we're treating this, you're going to get some kind of pain associated with it. It's making sure that you can tolerate that pain will be the good thing.
So if I touch this thing and I go, okay, it hurts. Should I touch it to the point that I'm going, all right, I got it.
I always like to use the rule of thumb of making sure you can breathe still, or you can still have a conversation while pushing it. If I push hard enough, then you can't talk, then that's a little too much at that point.
So the attitude of some of good doesn't mean that more is better.
Right.
There is kind of a sweet spot. You want to be aware. There should be some sort of sensation change, an increase in discomfort, which I know, no one wants to be discomforted, but decrease, a change in discomfort, but not to the point that you're dropping to your knees, right?
Exactly. Because I'd rather have you work it consistently for a longer period of time than one time and dive in there and just hurt yourself.
And what do you mean by work it? Like how long should I do this for?
So a lot of times, there's lots of different ways out there. I recommend 7 seconds. Okay. You put the pressure in, and then let's say 14 seconds
And then
off.
just take it off, and then
Yeah.
come back.
Yeah.
And just repeat like that. Should I feel a change?
Eventually you will at the very end, and sometimes you'll have a soreness related to it.
And this
too,
is obviously a one-time fix.
Yeah, no,
Oh,
not
okay.
at all. So as you go, remember that you're going in the same environment tomorrow as you are
Fantastic.
today.
That's
so
probably the key point of everything. here.
exactly, these are chronic muscle knots. These things take a long time. It's consistency really
Yep.
over anything else that will get you there.
But just like diet and exercise, the more consistent you do it, the better result you're going to get.